Our chalice lighting words this morning are by Amy Zucker Morgenstern. Within the heart of the flower, the fountain of beauty. Within the heart of the community, a fire that warms and dances. Within the heart of each of us, a spark of the spirit of life. Holy, holy, holy.
In 1969, as the Vietnam War raged and began to wind down, William B. Rice wrote, "On a day such as this, may a great change come upon us. The sounds we've been hearing have been discordant. The sights we have been seeing have been violent. The words we have been reading have been hateful. And all this has been wearying, discouraging, and distracting. In our hearts, we had a dream of love, and in our minds, we had a pattern of community, but this has been a sorry season of discontent, most difficult for visions. Today," he writes, "is a new day, truly an hour for hope and joy and gladness. Let us be thankful for the persistence of flowers and open ourselves to their long wisdom. Often they grow in spite of terrible winters and miserable summers. Strange beauty greets us in unexpected places, as if there is a particular grace that is stronger than our carelessness and indifference. But when we tend our gardens with love and care, the reward will be greater than the effort." I'm Reverend Amy Petrie Shaw. My pronouns are they, them. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Des Moines, which stands on the land of the indigenous Iowa people. Today is our flower service, a day where we bring a plant or a flower to add to the common bouquet, and where we take a flower or plant to remind us that we belong to the community and the community to us. If you've brought a flower or a plant, you didn't drop it off yet, you're welcome to bring it up now or during any of the hymns. If you didn't bring a flower or plant, that's not a problem. The community has enough to share, so please, at the end, when we take our flowers and plants, please feel free. You come up and take a flower or a plant, because we're so glad that you're here.
Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Des Moines, where it is our mission to grow ethically and spiritually, serve justly, and love radically. I'm Heidi Levine. My pronouns are she and hers, and it is my joy to serve as celebrant this morning. Thank you for joining us. We welcome all people engaged in a reasonable search for truth and meaning, no matter where you are in your life journey or religious exploration. We welcome the searchers and the seekers, the confused and the confident. Whether you are here for the day or for a lifetime, we are glad that you have chosen to be with us this morning. Our gathering song this morning is number 305 in the Gray Hymnal, De Colores. We will be singing verses 1 and 2.
This is our time for all ages, our children's chapel. And today we are talking about the flower ceremony. And this story comes from a story by Janine Grossmeyer in the book A Lamp in Every Corner. And this is a more free retelling of that story. In the land of Prague in Czechoslovakia, in 1923, there was this little church. And this church didn't have a lot of the things that most people thought belonged in a church. There were no stained glass windows and no organ. There were no fancy draperies. The altar was plain and simple. The chairs were wooden and they weren't cushioned at all. But the church had people who came every Sunday, and it had a minister, and his name was Norbert Čapek. Try going to 5th grade with the name Norbert Čapek. And Norbert had been a minister at this plain and simple church for 2 years. And every Sunday he went to church and he spoke to the people, and they sat very quietly in those hard chairs and they listened. And when he was done, they would talk a little bit and they'd go home. And that was it. No music, no candles, no food, no coffee, no donuts. But spring came that year in Prague in 1923, and Norbert Čapek went for a walk. And when he was out there walking, it was beautiful. The birds were singing and the flowers were blooming, and he thought this was the most amazing thing he'd seen for a while. And then the idea came to him, plain and simple, clear as day. And the next Sunday, he asked all the people in the church to bring a flower or a plant or a budding branch or just a twig. Every person was to bring something. And they all asked, well, what kind, what color, what's the theme? And he said, it's up to you, pick what you want. And on the next Sunday, the first day of summer, the people came with all different kinds of stuff. Flowers and plants, sticks, vases. The church didn't look so plain and simple anymore. And Minister Čapek spoke to the people still sitting in those hard chairs, and he said, the flowers are like us. Different colors, different shapes, different sizes, each needing different kinds of care, but every one of them is beautiful and special. Even the ones with thorns, even the ones that smell funny, they're all important. And when he was done talking, the people talked a little bit among themselves, and then they each chose a different flower or plant to go home with them, to remind them that they were part of a community. Thank you for listening to my story this morning. Our offering words are done with my normal deep gravity. A UU minister was walking to church trying to juggle a huge bundle of flowers and plants for flower communion. Her rather crotchety neighbor saw her struggling, but rather than offer to help, the neighbor said, "What's all that junk for?" And the minister began to explain about Norbert Čapek and how flower communion began in Czechoslovakia, and the neighbor shook her head and said, "I don't care. I don't care about any of that. It's all foolishness. Did Norbert whoever really think he was gonna get you all into heaven?" The minister face palmed and said, "Well, you know what? When I get to heaven, I'll ask him." "Well, what if you don't go to heaven?" The neighbor said triumphantly. "Well, what then?" The minister smiled and said, "Well, then you ask him." The morning offering will now be given and received. There'll be a link in the chat for those of you following along on Zoom. One half of our plate goes to the internal social justice programs of the church. Faith in Action and Knock and Drop, our partners, get the other 50%. Thank you so much for these gifts and for everything that you do for the life and the work of this community. Please settle now into a comfortable position and take a few centering breaths as we enter into a time of silent thought, meditation, or prayer. We will be silent for 1 minute. As a free church of the open mind and the loving heart, we are here in part to bear witness and to hold one another in the moments of our lives, which are most fragile and most beautiful. We're a community of human hands and human hearts, and this is the time in our service where we minister to one another. And we talk about the good and the bad happening to us and in the world. May we hold in our thoughts and our prayers this week the victims from Robb Elementary School. Neva Bravo, 10. Her name is Heaven spelled backwards, and she loved to make people smile. Eva Morales, 44, 17 years educator, taught fourth graders. Javier Lopez, 10, he loved cracking jokes. He was a smart aleck, and he danced cumbia. Jose Flores, 10, loved to play baseball. Irma Garcia, 48, she taught fourth grade. She loved to cook and fish. She taught reading. And last Thursday, her husband, Jose Garcia, died of a heart attack shortly after her memorial. Ellie Garcia, age 9, she loves singing and dancing. Tess Mata, she loves spending time with her family more than anything. Lexi Rubio, she was a standout student and athlete who played basketball and softball. Alia Siguero loved pink and playing games. Jacqueline Cazares, 9, celebrated her first communion. Jace Luivanos, 10, made a pot of coffee for his grandparents that he lived with every single morning. Miranda Mathis, 11, was smart and fun and spunky, and everybody liked her. Emery Jo Garza, an honor roll student, age 10, proud big sister and all-around good kid. McKenna Lee Elrod loved to dance and sing. Layla Salazar, 10, won 6 races at the school in the field day event. Malte Rodriguez wanted to be a marine biologist. Annabelle Rodriguez was outgoing and loved to be the center of attention. Alejandra Cruz Torres loved playing softball and hoped to make the all-star team. Rogelio Torres was smart and loving. Alicia Ramirez loved art and playing soccer. Uzziah Garcia, 10, was getting ready for football, swimming, and video games for the summer, right after he finished 4th grade. Let us hold them and their families in our hearts this week. Let us share together now the names of anyone we know who could use that same special care and attention. You may type their names into the chat or call them out loud, and may the love of this community hold them and Texas, the people of the world, may we hold them in our hearts. May the light of our community shine on the broken places of the world, and may we help to fix them. May the work of our hands and our hearts support, aid, and comfort all those who hunger or thirst for food or water, justice, safety, or freedom. May we never look away when we're needed. May those who are grieving be comforted. May those who are tired find rest. May the broken places be healed, and may those who are filled with joy and laughter be abundant. Now together we light 3 candles, one for the joys and the sorrows we've shared, one for the names that we've written and spoken, and one last candle for all of the joys and all of the sorrows which are deeply held but remain unspoken here today.
Our first reading is from How to Build Community and Why It Matters So Much by Tracy Brower. When we are part of a thriving community, we feel a sense of kinship, camaraderie, and connectedness. There is a place and role for each person, And group members feel they can bring all of themselves to their work and their team. There are high levels of trust and psychological safety in which people know others will have their backs and will not only give them the benefit of the doubt, but the space to apply their talents and develop new ones. Within a strong community, people feel valued and all work has dignity. In addition, the needs of each member and the needs of the whole organization are fully met. As Plato said, the part cannot be well unless the whole is well. Communities take care of their members and vice versa because they are invested in the collective success of the group. The strength of our bonds matters too. A just published study by Ohio State University found people feel more supported when their networks are more tightly knit. In other words, when your own connections know each other, you're more likely to feel supported. Build your community by staying in touch with people, even if you have to accomplish it virtually. Invest time and energy in maintaining your bonds. Send a quick note to someone you haven't seen in a while, or call a more distant acquaintance. While making a phone call may seem very yesteryear, a new study by the University of Texas, Austin found voice calls can create stronger bonds than text messages. Also, demonstrate compassion and help others feel a sense of belonging. New findings published in the Journal of Neuroscience found people made better decisions when they considered others. After yoga, invite a new attendee to have a physically distanced coffee with your core group, or ask for input from a colleague on your project. People appreciate being welcomed and valued. The sense of belonging you extend strengthens the whole.
Sometimes I'm in ready to flow through the
Our second reading are words from John O'Donohue on the inner landscape of beauty from an interview on Being with Krista Tippett. Well, I think it makes a huge difference when you wake in the morning and come out of your house, whether you believe you're walking into dead geographical location, which is used to get to a destination, or whether you're emerging out into a landscape that is just as much, if not more alive as you, but in a totally different form. And if you go towards it with an open heart and a real watchful reverence, that you will be absolutely amazed at what it will reveal to you. And I think that was one of the recognitions of the Celtic imagination, that landscape wasn't just matter, but that it was actually alive. What amazes me about landscape recalls you into a mindful mode of stillness, solitude, and silence, where you can truly receive time. An awful lot of urban planning, particularly in poor areas, has doubly impoverished the poor by the ugliness which surrounds them. And it's understandable that it's so difficult to reach and sustain gentleness there. And I do think, like a friend of mine just in the last week who was absolutely exhausted in London, just came away down to southern England and spent the week by the slow ocean, and she's totally recovered. She's come back to herself. But I do think, though, that it's not just a matter of the outer presence of the landscape. I mean, the dawn goes up and the twilight comes, even in the most roughest inner city place. And I think that connecting to the elemental can be a way of coming into rhythm with the universe. And I do think that there is a way in which the outer presence, even through memory or imagination, can be brought inward as a sustainable thing. I mean, I think that, and it's the question of beauty, I mean, you're asking essentially, as we're speaking, that there are individuals holding out on front lines, holding the humane tissue alive in areas of ultimate barbarity, where things are visible that the human eye should never see. And they're able to sustain it because there is in them some kind of sense of beauty that knows the horizon that we are really called to in some way. I love Pascal's phrase that you should always keep something beautiful in your mind. And I have often, like in times when it's been really difficult for me, if you can keep some little contour that you can glimpse sideways at now and again, you can endure great bleakness. Our centering song this morning is number 21 in the Gray Hymnal, For the Beauty of the Earth. We will sing verses 1 through 3.
Source of all
Well, it's not warm and sunny, but it's a beautiful day nonetheless. After almost 3 years of COVID, I wasn't sure that I'd ever get to attend another in-person, in the church flower communion, and yet here we are. You made it through. Slightly battered, slightly tired at times, but still a community in every sense of the word. And community is what Flower Communion is all about, community and the beauty that you find there. Now, before there's panic in the aisles, I'm going to tell you, I am not going to tell you the story of Norbert Chapek again. I'm deeply sympathetic to the sheer number of people over the years who've offered me increasingly large bribes, not to repeat that story repeatedly. It's a great one, though. If you're interested, please Google it. Fascinating story about a gentleman killed by the Nazis for his beliefs. What I am going to talk about today is the meaning behind Flower Sunday. As you use, we don't have a bunch of sacred rituals. Most of us light chalices, but it's not required. We have ordination and installation for ministers, child dedications and weddings and funerals and installations, all of which vary incredibly and they mean different things to different people. We have the water service, which draws us back together. And then we have Flower Communion, designed to give us that moment of witnessing the beauty of the community being together. I don't take the word communion lightly. It's a painful word for too many people to take it lightly. Comes from Latin, communio means sharing in common. In Greek, the word is convivia, which also is translated as fellowship. It's where we get convivial. Communion is designed to draw a community closer. As a church, as a family of common principles, as a group recognizing their own shared humanity. Predates Christianity. It used to mean a business partnership. It was used for the fellowship of life in marriage, to spiritual relationship with some divinity, to camaraderie between friends. It's a deeply meaningful coming together, and that's what we celebrate today. It's a ritual that reminds us of who we are and what we mean to one another. So when you came here today, whether or not you were carrying a plant or a flower, it's okay. Some of us come with more. Some of us come with less. Some of us come with nothing but our own bodies. And everyone is equally welcomed here. No two flowers or plants are the same, but they're all beautiful. The tall, the short, the slender, the delicate, the thick-stemmed, the hardy. Some smell lovely, others just smell. Red and pink and purple and gold and green and green and green. Through our plants, through the plants, we bring ourselves to the altar, our hearts to the community. Like us, they live for a while, but eventually, most wither and grow small and return to the soil that created them. They're beautiful because they're fleeting. They're beautiful because we share in their life and in their death. We bring them here in our own hands, in human hands, and we carry them to the table for ourselves. This wasn't an accident when Chapek created that. It wasn't designed to just be interesting. It was because you matter. Each and every one of you matter. We signify through our actions that we are here through our own free will. No fear of God, no fear of humanity, no act of law, no demand of state forces us to be here. And the word communion, though filled with tension and resonating with images of other places and other religions, well, it's our word too. We are in communion with one another. We share not a symbolic meal, but we share ourselves. When I was writing this sermon, friends sent me a picture of rushes growing down in the mountains in Ravenna, Kentucky, near where I'm from, and a link to hear him and his friends playing a song called Green Grow the Rushes, Oh. It was on mountain dulcimer and psaltery and violin. And that picture with the morning mountain fog and the green and the melody, it was incredible. The words to the song are strange, and there are a lot of versions, like any folk song. The ones I heard say, I'll sing you one, oh, green grow the rushes, oh, where is your one, oh? One is one and all alone and evermore shall be, oh. Somebody wrote these words around the 12th century. And that folk song grew to have about 12 verses, sometimes more, sometimes less, sometimes better, sometimes worse. It's popular across the entire English-speaking world at different times. And no one knows what the original author was talking about. Interpretations and verses have ranged from biblical to astrological to confusing. But it made me think about our community. As a church, you are one, independent, self-controlled, ever more in charge of yourselves and your vision of what you can be in the world. One is one, and evermore shall be. But within that oneness, those same green rushes grow, each of us. We grow wildly upward or sideways. We grow at our own rate. We stand together against the wind and the rain and the fog, and yet each of us is independent. Single stalks of green and brown and gold against the green hills of our background. When the Nazis took control of Prague in 1940, they found Norbert Chapek's gospel of the inherent worth and beauty of every person to be, as Nazi court records show, too dangerous to the Reich for him to be allowed to live. Dr. Čapek was sent to Dachau, where he was killed in the gas chambers, and they were right. The idea of a community made of individuals, each in control of themselves, each seeing beauty in their own way, it has survived and triumphed long, long after the last shouting voices of the original Nazi stormtroopers and jackbooted thugs faded. And it survives today. It survives even when things like Texas happen. It survives in a political landscape that is horrid. It survives when times are tough and when you're scared, in times of transition. Remember that you are a community filled with beautiful people. You are a community who will survive and thrive. On the green rolling hills of the world, this congregation stands like a shock of rushes, beautifying it. May you always grow. May you stand tall and may you see the beauty you bring. Now, in the words of Dr. Čapek, I bless the flowers and plants we've brought today. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these, the messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us amid diversity of thought and gift to be one in desire and affection and devotion. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of the most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of one another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship. But may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the effort of all of us is needed to do thy work in the world. We're going to share our flowers now. And what I ask is you just come up, choose a flower or a plant, whatever speaks to you. Everyone come forward, whether you brought anything or not. Choose what speaks to you to take home. If you need to send somebody up to get something for you, that's fine. Heidi will be up front here to help if you have any trouble getting flowers out of the vase, if you choose to take a cut flower. Please join us now in our flower communion. I ask the front rows to come forward first, and when you get yours, please return to your seat and we'll just keep walking backwards. If you want to, yeah. In the name of Providence, which implants the seed, in the seed the future of the tree, and in the hearts of humanity the longing for people to hold dear. In the name of the highest spirit of life, in whom we move and who makes family of us all. In this holy resolution, to be strengthened as a community and as people, may we be united in one spirit of love, trying evermore for a better and more joyful life together. Amen. When the service is over, for anything that's left of here, please feel free to come up, make yourself a little bouquet, take an extra plant, you are more than welcome.
May the fire of our faith never diminish, and may we bloom together now and in the time to come. Our closing song this morning is number 1064 in the Teal hymnal, Blue Boat Home.
Go in joy, go in love, go in a renewed sense of community, peace, ashe, and may it be so.
Soul of truth, eternal goodness, sojourn with us as we part. Fill our minds with high endeavor, keep us just and pure in heart. Strengthen us for daily